And they are now mobilizing for a peace conference in a little Swiss town. But I don't see a real peace move because actually not both warring parties are invited. Russia is disinvited. So what they're now trying to do is trying to get a lot of the partners of the G7 under the pressure from, of course, United States and others, neutral countries into the fold of the G7. But what's more important and more dangerous is the recent statements by G7 leaders, for example, by Emmanuel Macron, who said that he was ready to send troops into Ukraine, but also by the UK Foreign Secretary, Cameron, who said, we think that Ukraine has the permission to use missiles with longer range, meaning between 100 and 200, maybe even 300 kilometers, which would be able to strike deep into Russian territory. Uh, Putin has told the strategic nuclear forces in the southwest area to start exercising for a worst case scenario. We are already, according to many of the experts, we're on the precipice of something that could turn into a war between NATO and Russia, possibly even crossing the threshold to nuclear war. On the contrary, I think China has gained a lot of credibility by putting a 12-point plan last year into the public, saying that we have to, it's a 12-point peace plan basically for the Ukrainian issue, saying that we have to, of course, we have to have a ceasefire, but we also must stop provocations. Both sides must stop provocations. Both sides must stop aggression. Both sides must stop the Cold War mentality. So it's not just that there is, according to the Western narrative, there's a good and the evil. They are trying to broker between the two, and they're not going to be pushed into a bloc, into a position where they are part of the Western bloc against Russia. This is a complete sham. This will never happen. The G7 will come up with new sanctions or with the reaffirmation of the existing sanctions. But what have they achieved, the sanctions? They have achieved nothing in the sense that they want to reduce the capacity of the Russian economy to produce weapons and continue the war. On the contrary, Russia has found new markets, new partners. Germany is the country that has taken the greatest hit of these sanctions, not just because we are abandoning our trade relations, but we have abandoned our cheap energy source in terms of Russian natural gas and oil. On the contrary, the German economy is suffering. There's a process of deindustrialization taking place because, the larger multinational companies, they can send their investments otherwise or elsewhere where energy prices are cheap. Like German companies, according to polls, are saying that 90% of them are saying that China is an excellent market. We need to stay in China. China is innovative. We need to be in the competitive field with China. Otherwise, we're going to lose a lot of the competitive edge. Now, that's very certain. But if you look at the summit, the Sino-US summit, you have the same sentiment among American industrial leaders. They don't want to lose China. The supply chains between China and the US are very much intertwined. I think it's more the foreign policy elite in Washington. They are very much detached from reality. They are fed by the mainstream media. They are think tanks, the universities. You have basically a whole slime mold of foreign policy elite opinion makers, and this is the actual policy that is harmful also for the US and other G7 countries. So concerning China, I think the best would be that a lot of the countries that have been already thinking about cooperating with China more strategically, not just on an annual or day-by-day trade basis, they could cooperate with the systems that or frameworks that China has developed, like the Belt and Road Initiative, the New Silk Road, we call it. It's very open. I mean, countries in South America are part of it, all African countries, South Asia. There are a lot of countries also in Europe participating. Why not the US? The US and Great Britain can actually be part of this, and then they will see if we invest also in the development of the global South, getting millions of people out of poverty, bringing them into the same income range as the Chinese middle-sized population, then we create markets also for us. We also create chances for our economies. So you can either have the lose-lose game or you can have the win-win game. There's not much in between.